Describe, without telling me it's child porn, describe it to me in a simile, in a metaphor, how you would describe these images.
Evil. They are the worst of the worst that you can see in human beings. For us, most people think that it's bathtub pictures, that it is beach pictures, little kids running around in diapers, and that's not it. What we see every day is infants and toddlers being raped, being tortured, body parts being cut off. That is, in a nutshell, what child pornography is.
A child, a toddler, an infant's body parts cut off. How is that sexual? How is that sexual? How can somebody be sexually attracted to that?
I don't know. I don't get it. Unfortunately, the pattern that we're seeing is younger and younger victims in more explicit, more bizarre sexual acts. And so we see bestiality. We see children being forced to perform sexual acts with animals, to perform sexual acts with adults. And I don't see the fascination in it, but.
And these are all videos that you have to watch?
It could be still images, it could be videos, or it could be live stream. The new trend with technology today, unfortunately, technology changes, and we are seeing live streaming videos of children being raped.
All cases are bad. What's the worst that you've seen that just sticks with you?
Wow, that's hard, because just every time you think you've seen the worst, something new comes out. We've seen a day-old baby still in the hospital, hasn't even been released from the hospital, being raped by an adult male. We've seen a picture of a young child in an autopsy room, split open, and you see the penis coming out of the stomach cavity. You see animals. You see, we've seen a video of a small girl being forced. There's a boa constrictor around her, and the man ejaculates, and then she has to lick off the semen off of the snake.
How do you not get emotional when watching these?
I don't think you can't. You have to. You see these images, and for me, the hardest part is looking at the child, seeing the damage in their eyes, seeing their soul being murdered, and this is their life. You have to fight for them, and I can't think of one person on this task force that doesn't take it seriously, that doesn't get emotionally involved in it.
You talked about a boa constrictor, a large snake wrapped around a child.
Yes.
Then they have to lick the semen off of the snake.
Correct.
People may not believe that.
That's what we see every day, unfortunately, and that's what these kids are being subjected to. And I think that's the hard part, is trying to explain to society, to the community, that we're not just talking bathtub pictures, that we are talking very graphic, very explicit, very cruel images. And this is what the children are being subjected to.
How do you get society to understand that and believe that without showing images? Because you can't show them.
That's right, and I don't know how. I know we scream it from the rooftops. We do everything we can. We address it with legislation. We try to do everything we can. Unfortunately, I think part of the problem we run into is that there's a misunderstanding out there. People think that it's a one-time thing. The problem with our offenders is they're preferential offenders. They are attracted to children, and they are the highest reoffense rate in sexual crimes.
But there are some people who say, well, they go to jail, they get away from that for a couple years or a couple months, or just receive counseling. That will help with the recidivism rate, does it?
No, not that what we've seen, and there's recently been a study that's been released. There's a lot of studies out there that talk about recidivism rates, And the problem with those studies is that they only look at the offender for maybe 4 or 5 years, usually while they're on probation. And it requires the offender to self-report. And these guys, people, don't report it unless they get caught. A lot of the times we'll do exit interviews on our offenders, and of course they've been saying the whole time while they're on probation that they haven't offended, but 90% of them fail their exit interviews, their polygraphs. They are out there reoffending, and each time there's multiple victims. Truthfully, it's extremely hard. I don't know how you could do this to a child. The fact that the children should be able to trust the family members, the parents, and it's the parents or the uncles, the sometimes mothers, siblings, they're the ones doing this a lot of the time. And I can't wrap my brain around it.
If this is happening to newborns and it keeps happening to them as they get older, this is their norm.
Yeah. Many of the victims that we see are nonverbal. And so how do they report it? How do they tell somebody that this is happening to them? So we won't find out for years and years and years. There's many of our victims have been abused for 10, 12 years before they ever get discovered and helped. And unfortunately, by that time, their life is ruined. They will never recover from this because it does so much, not only physical damage to them, but the emotional damage, the trust, the hurt that they have because of the crimes that have been happening to them.
How often do you get to speak with one of these victims?
The majority of the cases that we see are identified victims. We know that they're out there. Sometimes we can't identify the victims. And so I think that's our biggest frustration, is knowing that these kids are out there and we don't know who they are yet. We have had cases where we have live victims, where it is a family member who is doing the abuse, and it's pretty hard.
Do these crimes, or do these offenders, people looking, distributing child porn, do they deserve to be punished?
Absolutely. And I know we hear a lot of argument about how, well, they're just possessing child porn. They're not the ones manufacturing. They're not the ones raping the children. But if you look at it, they're creating the demand for the pornography, for the manufacturing. They are creating victims. And so whether you're manufacturing, distributing, or just merely possessing, you're three wheels in the, 3 spokes in the wheel, and you are creating that harm.
What are the different penalties for offenders, whether you're just possessing, or whether you're possessing and distributing?
Up until this legislative season, it has been a second-degree felony, whether you're possessing, manufacturing, or distributing. Legislation just this last season has enhanced manufacturing to a first-degree felony, but only for specific types of crimes. So only if it depicts rape of a child or some of the more severe things. But what I would like to see is all manufacturing. If you're sexually abusing a child, it should be a first-degree felony. Right now, second-degree felony is 1 to 15 years, but unfortunately, our defendants rarely see prison time unless they reoffend 4 or 5 times.
Why is that, if it's 1 to 15 years?
I think a lot of it's sentencing guidelines. I think the adult probation and parole is following their sentencing guidelines, and that's what's been established by legislature, by the Sentencing Commission.
So you get the 1 to 15 years, but if you can prove that you're a changed person and you go before APMP or the parole
So
board.
what happens is that we'll convict a defendant. A sentencing recommendation will be made by adult probation and parole, and usually the 1 to 15 prison sentence is suspended and they're put on probation. So they may do some jail time, but they will not go to prison.